everyone hear me?
Wow.
Oh, there I am. Hi, good afternoon, everybody. What a crazy week. I don't know if everyone here or is here for Token, but I'm so glad it's Friday. So, all right, welcome to our panel. Today we'll be talking about DePIN and beyond, the path to mass adoption. My name is Nikita Sashev. I am glad to be your moderator with some very renowned people in the DePIN space. Before I kick off to your introductions, I'll quickly introduce myself. I'm the CEO and founder of Luna Media Corp. We house 6 companies, but our bread and butter is Luna PR. It's a leading PR agency focused on Web3 emerging tech, Web3 and emerging tech, headquartered here in Dubai, offices in London and New York. I'm from Texas, been in Dubai for 4 years now, and absolutely love to be in the center of Web3. Clara, take it away.
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Clara Tao. I'm the founding officer of the Filecoin Foundation. Filecoin is the world's largest decentralized storage platform and network. Today, data belongs in the hands of major monopoly, and we're trying to make sure that we can decentralize as much as possible. We have over 4.1 exabytes of available storage and close to 4,000 storage providers all around the world that are upkeeping data centers. We are actually having a few moving here to Dubai, and so as the previous panel, actually one of the panelists said to me, today data trade actually exceeds oil trade. And so data is really the new oil of this region, and we're trying to do as much as we can to make sure it really belongs in the hands of people and not large monopolies.
Awesome.
Hi, everybody. Scott Siegel, I'm the CEO of the Helium Foundation. Helium launched in 2019. It is the largest decentralized wireless network in the world. We're currently serving nearly 1 million people on a daily basis, primarily with our US product, Helium Mobile, as well as serving traditional telco. Just last week, we announced a partnership with the second largest telecom provider in the United States, AT&T. 120 million subscribers on AT&T actively roaming into Helium on a daily basis and continue to scale to support the expansion of affordable wireless connectivity for all.
Hi, everyone. AJ, founders of EastFlow. We're a DePIN orchestration layer. We help projects with reducing the go-to-market strategy by 90%, from the network orchestration to the activation of the community. I've been hearing a lot about user experience, and I think this is kind of our main focus of how we support communities to deploy and participate in launching and supporting those networks. Yeah, mainly how can generate liquidity and exit for those people as well.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for the introductions. Let's start off with the basics. Let's give a proper definition of what DePIN is, and don't just break down the abbreviation, Decentralized Physical Infrastructure Network. It seems like it's been quite a buzzword in the last year, especially with VCs, the last 2 years maybe, same as RWA this season. But really, what is it all about? So, Clara, maybe you can go first.
Yeah, so Decentralized Physical Infrastructure Network really gets to the heart of why I think a lot of us fell in love with crypto in the first place. Is crypto is not just cryptocurrency, it really disrupts the way to remove intermediaries and for services to go from A to B more efficiently. And for a lot of people building physical infrastructure, the ability to actually build with hardware devices or these, in our case, data centers in regions of the world where large monopolies may not even be incentivized to go. Those are the opportunities where you can crowdfund and have a community of people really support infrastructure existing. And I think it's probably the most interesting part of crypto because you really see real world utility, and you'll hear from the other panelists today about their use cases. But for us, it's also seeing, we have so many entrepreneurs that we mingle with in DePIN space. We've been around since 2013. Our white paper was written then, published in 2014, and considered probably the earliest DePIN project out there. But we really do believe that a lot of entrepreneurs today, they couldn't actually get the capital they needed to build infrastructure in the Web 2 model, where VCs are not necessarily incentivized in last Web's version of the Web to fund particular projects. And we have amazing projects like WeatherXM that were able to actually use the DePIN infrastructure to launch weather stations all around the world and store their sensor data on Filecoin. So those are just a couple of examples of the beautiful bridge between the data layer and also all the other physical infrastructure projects. Helium as well is, so great at what they do with their mobile hotspot devices. So I think it's the most interesting, and it's things that you can use every single day. When people say crypto is useless, people are using these services every single day, whether it's storing backup storage on your cell phones or whether it's large genomic data sets and preserving that for the future and not necessarily having governments censor or access your data.
I think I would just add on, because I almost agree with every single point there, is that DePIN is actually solving it. It's a timely issue. So if you think about the fact of most DePIN projects are solving things where we're approaching thresholds for high CapEx areas of industry where centralized models can no longer support the needs of the consumer. So if you think about things in terms of storage, in terms of wireless, in terms of energy, compute, all of these can't, the growth in demand, especially with looking at things like AI, centralized models cannot continue to scale. I mean, just the wireless space alone, tens of billions of dollars are spent every single year by very, very large, very well-funded enterprise telco, and they're looking to reduce that capital expenditure on a daily basis, on a yearly basis. So if you look at all these industries, number one, there's a very, very clear traditional industry buyer. It is solving a capital expenditure problem, and its ability to increase participation from anybody, whether it's small business owners, large industry, to deploy those solutions that can satisfy their commercial needs and, again, allow these solutions to scale. So I think it's, again, I agree with Clara, this is one of the most fascinating and one of the most urgent spaces within crypto.
Awesome. Well, I'm just going to take a step back. We just had Kevin join us. Kevin, thank you for joining. Maybe, I know there was a crazy line out there, so maybe you can give us a quick introduction about what you do.
Okay, thanks. Sorry for late. I mean,
No
yeah,
worries.
there is a long line there, so I was stuck outside and say, okay, what gonna do? So yeah, it is a happy discussion, and I'm very happy to be here. Yeah, we are talking about DePINs. So actually, CGV is a crypto venture. It is already founded for like 6 years. Initially, we are in China mainland, and then we moved to Tokyo, Japan. So we connected with some of the funds in Tokyo with Japanese, so we making a joint ventures. So we investing DePIN, AI, and RWA, this kind of stuff currently. But before, we are a lot of exchanges investors as well. Yeah. So including like OK, BitGet, a lot of. So for the also for the DePIN part, so we as I mentioned yesterday, like we are going to have organize a big event in Hong Kong, especially for DePIN, which is called DePIN Expo 2025, which is held by Hong Kong government. So yeah, of course, I'd like to share more information later on.
Amazing. When is it?
Well, it will be on August, end of August. Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. It's good to know that DePIN is
calendars.
deserving its own events now. Are there a lot of, I mean, I've seen quite a few projects in DePIN, but are you seeing more and more founders coming in, and are they more innovators or traditional businesses looking to decentralize their current products and services?
I think I'm seeing this. It's a lot of folks that are coming to DePIN are kind of, again, they're looking where they're bumping up in scaling constraints. I was just talking to somebody yesterday where his background, he was a helicopter pilot, then he was working with drones. And it's how do you solve these scalability issues? You can increase participation to boost your supply and actually solve a commercial problem by leveraging a large community that's incentivized through these protocols. So the fact that they're coming from the industry they ultimately want to serve, I think it shows a lot of promise for the space because they know their audience, they know who they're trying to sell to, they understand the value prop. So they're thinking about these things the right way from the get-go, where for some of the DePINs that kind of go back a little bit like Filecoin and Helium, I think we focused a lot on supply initially, and it's great to see that a lot of the new projects coming out are very much thinking about that demand-side solution really from launch.
Right, and maybe AJ, you can answer this question. I'm curious. Like, DePIN's been around for years. However, do you feel like we're increasing momentum, or we're still in the early experimental phases?
I think it's pretty early. like, it's few projects that manage to get that complete traction, really, and have that mass adoption. There are two things that we've been focused on. One, projects, they're always coming with their own framework. There is no standardization. There is no framework which they can use to build on top of and extend it, which increased the hurdle for anybody that want to build on top of that or really want to support it. And then when it comes to the end consumer who wants to participate, whether it's for incentives, securing the network, whatever, those are all aligned by the end of the day. The entry hurdle is so high, the prone error is extended. So how can we ease that deployment and make it just like almost a one-click participation for the user?
But so you say early phases. Scott, you just said 1 million users a day. That sounds pretty momentum stage. So what are your thoughts? Do you also, Clara, same as Filecoin? I mean, how many users now does Filecoin have?
Yeah, I mean, it's really hard to measure because I think the most useful part of crypto is when people don't know they're using it at all. We've worked with tons of amazing organizations from the research, academic space, like MIT Open Learning. If you're using their courseware, it's being backed up on Filecoin. If you've ever looked at internet history on the Wayback Machine on Internet Archive, they're backing up on Filecoin. So we have a huge set of data that people today are already using. If you own an NFT, you're already storing it on IPFS and Filecoin. So we are also looking at, right now, fast retrievals and making sure that we can be as competitive with AWS in terms of hot storage. But if you look at the storage vertical, there's 16 to 18 subsectors, and there's so many different players in each one. And so it's hard to say this for that because everyone has such different use cases. But one of our goals is not only to say centralized storage is no good, let's go to decentralized. We're also trying to talk about what is so unique and different that centralized storage today can't even offer, which is the ability to verify where data is coming from. By the end of 2026, 90% of new content on the web will be AI generated, and people want to know, is this a bot, is this not? Creators want to know, how can I make sure that I can actually retain ownership of the art and creations I make? Rather than necessarily feeling like they're handcuffed to a large provider for content that they actually are the creators of. And then the most exciting part is also, if you work in the scientific discovery space and you're trying to experiment on millions of dollars of research, you don't want to accidentally lose your data or have data altered that you can't track or trace. And those are properties that make decentralized storage even more unique than what centralized providers can offer. So those are just a couple of examples, but we're also able to do, for example, archival storage at a fraction of the cost for AWS today. And in the turbulence of geopolitics right now with tariffs and other things, a lot of people are like, oh, decentralized storage is terrific because they're not subjected to necessarily tariffs. You can find a local storage provider to host your data in your local region. And those are really interesting times when we've seen crypto really thrive, especially in times when there might be large inflation or uncertainty.
It sounds like you have fantastic B2B partnerships, and I mean, if you speak to me, it sounds like you're in the momentum phase. If you've hit these large institutional companies, multinational corporations, to integrate what you're doing without the end user knowing that they're using DePIN, it seems like both of you, Scott and Clara, are in momentum phase.
Well, it's funny because I actually feel like we're still just hitting the product market fit phase, because if you think about the addressable markets for these things, they're absolutely massive. I mean, the number I gave in terms of like what does our daily users look like, that's less than 1% of the US market. So if you're talking about people who are accessing wireless coverage for a 25% of the cost of what they would typically pay on a per gigabyte basis, it is like up only from here kind of a thing, just calling it out of. The ability for these things to now find their fit, and now that we're starting to hit that early stage of scale, I think that you're going to see tremendous amount of growth for, especially, the projects that have been around for a while, some of the newer ones. The markets, they're such big markets that I think that even though it sounds like we're hitting things that are more mature from a crypto perspective, at least from telco, for storage, for compute, it's early. I think the other thing to consider is the fact of we have to have the right financial instruments in place. You have to write the liquidity in place. So even though the actual demand side products are serving a need that is absolutely where we find fit, look at something like Helium. We have to make sure we can serve these enterprise customers with the right types of financial tools, because look, the reality is large enterprise telco is not going to go and buy a native token yet. So a lot of our protocol, I mean, for Helium, for these other teams, like we have to be thinking about these other types of solutions that are regulated products too. So there's a lot of pieces that go into it, but the fact that we're actually seeing this type of user growth and demand and protocol revenue, it's incredibly promising for the next couple of years for sure.
Yeah, and I wanted to share a similar response as Scott, which is a lot of people ask, is DePIN collaborative with each other? And the reality is we all are here in crypto because we're kind of going against the Goliaths. We're all Davids here trying to go against these giants. And while Filecoin might be the largest decentralized storage network in Web3, there's still a bigger piece of the pie that is out there that today we're starting to see the centralization of monopolies happening with all the AI companies that are starting to own user data, user memory. Do you want all of your ChatGPT memory owned by Microsoft ultimately, because that's being backed up on Azure, and you are giving AI your deepest, darkest thoughts? So those are the fundamental questions that I think a lot of people don't realize till it's too late, just like a lot of people think searching on the web is free until they realize their data is actually being sold. And now if you have your personal information online, you have to pay some random company to take that information down, and you no longer own that data fully. So I think you will also see a society, the wake-up moment for a lot of people over time learning how models and systems work, and at some point, hopefully users also demand that. But I think we're all trying to make sure there's a future where opportunity for entrepreneurship can be equal, and that everyone has a ability to play, especially in the physical hardware space where there are just so many existing monopolies that every single DePIN project is against. At the same time, you also have to message to all the token holders and investors in the Web3 space that you're doing things, but sometimes it feels like you're working in two different worlds at times. I know Scott is talking to telcos and others. We're talking to traditional storage and enterprises, as much as we're trying to also make sure people know what's happening with innovative things we're doing on the Web3 side. So it's like working two jobs.
Well, yeah, you gave that reference to Goliath, but like, these multinational corporations must also be quite important in your marketing strategy, right? To partner with them means mass adoption. So you have the B2B partnerships that are important, and then the retail. Who's more important? Like, who's really going to move that, get you to that journey to mass adoption? The B2B or B2C?
You guys want to go, if you want to go first.
Okay, so
I'm happy to answer, but I feel like we've been talking a lot.
Yeah, it's okay, thank you. So as we are making the DePIN export, right? So we are also like to thinking about it. So who's gonna buy it, right? And who's gonna use it? So that's the reason that we make the export for two sides. One is B2B side and one is B2B side for consumers only. So there will be some of these kind of DePIN which have real physical equipments. It can either be a Wi-Fi or be a mobile or be a SIM card or even be a USD card, right? Those kind of things will be very easy acceptable by the consumers. So they will understand, oh, this is DePIN, it's simple, right? It's just a mobile, another kind of mobile which can evaluate my data, right? So and give me rewards, inspiring me to use it more, and my data is being used, and it is decentralized, right? So this is one part for us, and there is another part for sure. For example, like in the mobile car industry or medical industry, for sure there is some other DePIN projects which can be used for the massive, for the enterprises, and then they will be collecting data, and it will generate data for values and then become RWAs. So I think it is the next stage. But I think for become a massive adoption, for the first step is maybe letting the consumer knows what is DePIN and it is easy to access, maybe,
Yeah, education. It all starts off with panels like this. I'm curious from the crowd, actually, how many of you guys use DePIN? Just show of hands, like in some way or another. Okay, that's pretty good. And for those who didn't raise your hands, do you not use DePIN because you don't understand it? Maybe like raise your hand if you don't understand it yet. Or raise your hand if it's too daunting, like you just don't know how to start.
For anybody in the crowd that's from the US, just sign up for Helium Mobile cell phone plan and you're using DePIN.
Yeah, so let's talk about that for a second, right? So Helium, you have 1 million users. And there's a device, like you have like the router for an internet, right? So there's a device, like where do you buy this device?
So, I mean, yeah, there's so I'll try to be quick because I want. So if you go to helium.com, there's two sides to it. It's like any two-sided marketplace. Our supply side is wireless coverage. You can go and you can buy what just looks like a wireless access point. You can put that on a roof. You can put it in a cafe, wherever you want to deploy it. I mean, the high-value areas for us are arenas, malls, like high-density areas or underserved rural areas. And now you're providing that wireless coverage. You're earning for that wireless coverage. On the demand side, so our flagship product is Helium Mobile. It literally is just a cell phone plan. You don't have to understand anything about crypto to use it, and I think that's the important part of a lot of DePIN is abstracting away any of those technical complexities where you just get the benefit from an economic perspective. So that's the flagship product, is just a mobile phone that you pay for every single month, or there's actually a free plan, if you can believe it. But we're really hitting our stride is in the B2B side. So like the B2C was, get this in the hands, show that it works, and then B2B is go to these large carriers like a Telefonica and an AT&T and say, you can roam into this, have extra coverage, redundant coverage, expand your footprint, and you're doing so, orders cheaper than what you would pay wholesale to any other type of wireless provider.
But like, why aren't we finding these products on Amazon, for example, or are we?
I mean, we have some IoT things that are on Amazon, but I mean, it's a mobile phone plan, so that's why it's. But I think there's a lot of other things. Again, like we have to find those channels for other DePIN projects where you can get into these mass market channels. And I know we're starting to see some of them here and there, but for us, I think we're kind of our type of channel is like more traditional carriers.
And I do want to say that I think a lot of times the question of B2B or B2C is really what time horizon you're looking at. For example, for us in storage, if you're looking at the entire space of, if our goal is to take over centralized storage, the majority of the space is enterprise storage, right? Like if you just look at the total addressable storage market, I think it's different for each of the fields that we're in, but in general, you have to get to enterprise. And right now, in the short term, it's impossible for you to suddenly become immediately working with every single enterprise out there, but making sure you're road mapping and collaborating with them in an effective way. A few years ago, we launched the Decentralized Storage Alliance, which brings together enterprises at the table and really helping them understand what's on their roadmap. There are a lot of interest from enterprises today wanting to use decentralized storage because if you're in the US, you probably have heard of antitrust. Companies today are figuring out how to decentralize, or they don't want a single point of failure, even with their sensitive data, and they want to have backups. They like the properties of decentralized storage, so they see it as another alternative safety net for their data. At the same time, we also want to bring on acquisition of new forms of data, like AI data, that today a lot of users are starting to say, we don't want our sensitive data to be owned by another monopoly that already took our last version of data. So it really is, in my opinion, a time horizon thing of how you go to market. A lot of times there's strategic moves that make sense in the short term while you're building the R&D for the longer term stuff. And our goal is, at some point, we should be as usable and as competitive as large enterprises if we can build the right integrations to get there. But those things take time. It's 10 times more complicated when you're dealing with a decentralized ecosystem of players all building the technology, but you also get so much more innovation that comes out of it.
Yeah, I mean, AJ, you've been a bit quiet, so I'm going to direct my next question to you. Earlier, Clara mentioned something about the need for cryptocurrency within DePIN. How important is it to have crypto pegged to DePIN?
Okay, I think it all comes down to incentivization of the user, really. They need to feel that they contribute to the ecosystem, contribute to the network, but at the same time, they have a piece of ownership. Incentive comes in many shapes and forms, but the economical element of it is the growth of the network. And when you have a token case, how much is this scaling? What's the growth potential? It becomes a bit tricky. It used to be that you're incentivizing user for actual usage or tasks that are being done using their compute. And now it's being shifted to just providing compute. So the right to participate comes from providing compute, and then the usage of that compute varies. A lot of the projects out there, if you look at their actual compute consumption, it's 10 to 30% of all the compute they have on the network. And that opens the door to a lot of native compute on new L2s or L3s. So if you take, for example, a gaming chain that's launching, there is many applications that you could use nodes for. Let's take an L2 or an L3. Then you're launching a game. You don't want to do every game transaction on-chain immediately. You rather have a sequencer that aggregate those transactions to save cost. That's one case. You can host the game on the node as well. Now, because there is a bandwidth to distribute the rest, the 70%, foundations can start giving grants rather in their own token in actual compute. And then the user that did participate by whatever, buying an NFT and delegating it to the node or staking their tokens to the nodes, they're not just earning from the chain token, but also earning from all the extended games built on top of it. So we start to see a bit more of like the dual module, right? It's compute being a native to applications.
And how do we kind of make the blockchain aspect less complex for people?
So we're working on this currently right now. It's setting up a node comes with a lot of complexity. Maintaining and monitoring it, setting up on the right environment. If you are deploying on bare metal or cloud, if you're deploying on Google Cloud, for example, you have a high bandwidth, which becomes expensive with external communication. And it's a very complicated topic to choose where to deploy your worknet. That's one thing. So abstracting that and using something like account abstraction. One of the things we're working on and hopefully launching by end of the year, the minute the NFT or the tokens would hit your account abstracted wallet, the system will automatically spin up the nodes. It will automatically delegate because it's a smart contract wallet, and you automatically start earning. That abstracts it to a mobile application. You don't really need to know anymore. If we're discussing the path to mass adoption, the only way, in my opinion, is to integrate it in daily applications where the user doesn't even have to dive deep into the difference.
And Kevin, this one's for you. From an investment standpoint, which aspects, which verticals of DePIN are you most excited about? Is it like, I mean, Clara spoke about data, you have storage, you have energy, you have mobility. Which verticals are you feel most optimistic about?
Well, we wrote analysis report just last month. So talking about hosting about DePINs. And we especially analyzed one field, which is eSIM cards. So, and also the credit cards part. But that, I mean, maybe somebody don't think the USD credit card is DePIN, right? So let's put that aside. But for the eSIM, definitely it is a DePIN part, and we think this one is the one which can spend very quickly and being widely used for mass adoption as well. And we analyzed the different solutions for eSIMs, eSIM, this kind of solutions. So and we kind of think that this one may help people to understand DePIN more easily. So this is one very specific part, yeah. But besides that, we think, especially for the business side, we are more focusing on the car industry and also the medical industries for DePINs. So yeah.
Car industry is interesting. I mean, Hive Mapper is a good example.
Yeah, there's a lot of.
Yeah, awesome. So our time is up, but I have one last question for all of you. We are on the same panel 5 years from now. What do you hope is like a massive change that's been made to prove that, yes, we've hit mass adoption? And I'll go first. I asked the audience how many of you are into DePIN, and everybody raises their hands. That would be like my metric of like, yes, we've made it. What about you, Clara?
My metric would be a twist on your metric, which is everyone is already using DePIN, but we don't need to use that term anymore because it becomes integrated in everyday technology. Just like probably a decade ago, people kept using the word IoT. Today, everything is a smart, connected device, right? It just becomes ingrained in how we live life. So I would love it that people are using DePIN without having to even use that term, and it's baked in all the hardware and services that we see visible and invisible in our lives.
I love it. And basically, we're not even having a panel on DePIN because
Yeah.
it just sounds silly. It's just there
Yeah.
in our everyday life.
No, I mean, it means we're like on the front stage of CES and all these other places where we don't need to do this at a crypto conference. We'll be in each of our industries.
Not the
having
first time
keynote.
Clara stole the good answer first from me. Yeah, I think that really, like, in 5 years, I mean, I'm at telco conferences. You know, crypto, this is a technology, it's not an industry. So in 5 years, you know, anything that Helium's doing, we're at, you know, all of our time is at it's telco and wireless events.
You're in a panel with T-Mobile and Verizon.
Sorry, Nikki, we're out of time.
Okay, wrapping up. Last one.
Yeah, for me,
Fire
it's
round.
true ownership. Having a distributed network give really people the right to own a piece of whatever they're using and helping scaling.
Yeah, and I think, you know, 5 years later, everyone will have one DePIN equipment, or wearings, anything, glasses, rings, everything. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much, everyone. I hope you learned a thing or two about DePIN today.